All right, guys, we're going to be going over grammar. So you're going to need to grab your grammar packet, and you could do the next some parts on your whiteboard. It's completely up to you. So if you want, just make sure you have that handy. So in these grammar slides, we're going to learn about past and present tenses of verbs. So a verb is an action word. So when we're doing something, that's the verb. It's what the noun is doing. So verb in the past tense tells what is the present tense tells what is happening now or something that happens often. And a verb in the past tense just talks about something that has already happened, an action that has happened. We have two sentences below. Both use the same verb but different tenses of the verb. So we vote for a president today. What was the action? It was voting. When did we do it? We did it today. So it's present. And in the past tense, we vote for a president last year. We voted if we did it in the past. Now, this next part you can do on your whiteboard. It's up to you. But on your whiteboard or somewhere, write it down or talk to your partner about it. But identify the verb in each of these sentences as well as the tense. List the verb and its tense on your whiteboard. So Malik likes the fireworks on Independence Day. Antonia called Sonia yesterday afternoon. What's the verb and what's the tense? All right, if you said the verb was likes, you are correct. Now, when did Malik likes the fireworks on Independence Day? That would be happening now or in the future, depending on how you look at it. Now, the next one is Tonya called Sonia yesterday. Well, yesterday happened in the past. Called is the verb, and we added the ed to call to make sure it happened in the past. Your next one is we planned a picnic for the 4th of July. They march in the town parade every year. Write the verbs and their tenses on your board. All right, we planned. Is the verb of plan, the past tense of plan. So they did plan a picnic, but they planned it, so it happened in the past. They march in the town parade every year. What are they doing? They're marching, and that's going on with that continuous. So it's the future and the present kind of idea there. All right, write down the verb and the tense on your whiteboard for 5 and 6. Don surprised me with our new parade float. Mia helped us with the decorations. Write down those verbs and those tenses. All right, the verb here is surprised. And it happened. When did it happen? It happened in the past. He surprised me. Mia helped us with the decorations. The verb here is help. And when did it happen? It happened in the past. All right, number 7 and 8, same idea, verb and tense. We are in the float contest this year, and Malik named our float 5th graders represent. What are the verbs and the tenses of both of those sentences? All right, 7. We are in the float contest this year. That one's a little tricky. We could think of it, we are in, because they're doing something, or the of the contest that year. So that kind of tells us that they're doing it in the present. Now, Malik named our float 5th graders represent. The verb here is named. When did he do it? He did it in the past. Now this next part, we're going to move on to our packet. And on this page, we're going to make sure you read what you're being asked to do. The tense of a verb shows, and this just kind of gives you more information, shows the time of an action or event. Verbs in present tense show that an event is happening now or regularly. Verbs in the past tense show that an event has already happened. To form the past or the of most verbs, you're going to add a D or an ED to the end, just kind of like which of the ones we practiced. For example, we have live or lived. Then you're going to come on over to this part of the packet. You don't have to worry about that bottom part that says challenge, try editing a piece of writing. We're not going to worry about that, but it says write the verbs in each sentence and tell whether they are present or past. So the first one we'll just talk about, and then you have to do. Pedro shared how the New England colonists lived. What's his action word? Well, it's shared. And did he do it in the past or the present? He did it in the past. So write down shared, past, and then continue on. All right, now we're going to talk about the future. So the future hasn't happened yet. And if a verb is in the future, it's an action that hasn't happened yet, but will happen or could happen. For example, we will visit the Statue of Liberty next month. And we're going to count both of these words, will visit, as part of the future tense. So we're going to do some more practice on our whiteboards. On your whiteboard, you're going to write the verb and its tense on your whiteboard for 1 and 2. Dixie finished her homework already, but I will finish mine tonight. What are the 2 verbs in that sentence, and what are the corresponding tenses? And then same with number 2. Jack will study the Bill of Rights with me, so we will pass our tests. What are the 2 verbs, and what are the tenses of both of those sentences? Each sentence has 2 verbs with 2 tenses. So Dixie finished her homework. So finished, she did it already. Finished is the verb, it happened in the past. And then the next one is will finish, which will happen in the future. Will study is the verb, and when did it happen? It will happen in the future. And will pass will happen in the future as well. So will pass is the second verb. Now our next 2 sets of sentences, I remember the first 5 amendments, so I will focus on the other 5. News reporters often talk about the freedom of speech and how they will protect it. So the first one, write down the verb and the tenses. The second one, write down the verbs and the tenses as well. Remembered is our first verb, and that happened in the past. Our second verb is will focus, and that will happen in the future. Talk is kind of ongoing, it's present, and that's our verb, talk, and it's present. And then the next verb is will protect, which means it will happen in the future. So just a reminder, at the top of this page in your packet, a little bit more information about future tenses. And then here you're going to go ahead and you're going to write these into the future tense. She takes a field trip with her class. She will take a field trip with her class, just like we will take a field trip with our class. So you'll write will take for this one, and then you'll go on to 2 through 5. Now we have consistent use of tenses. We know being consistent with things is super important, isn't it? Verb tenses help readers to understand when events happen. Use the same tense for all the sentences in a paragraph. changing tenses only to show a change in time. So that's where we stay consistent, because we want to make sure that we're staying in that one time frame unless things change. So for example, on the one that changed is the shifting tenses. We will fish there. I enjoyed swimming in the lake with friends. So they already took care of their swimming, but they will also go fishing. That's where you're allowed to shift. But most of the time, we want to stay very consistent in our verb tenses. Okay, so I'm going to read the paragraph, and then I want you to pick a verb tense that makes sense and suggest ways to rewrite the paragraph using that tense. I painted a picture of the American flag for my art class. My teacher helps me with the sketch. She framed my picture and places it in the art show. When I will visit the show with my family, I discovered a first place ribbon on my work. So this paragraph is inconsistent on the verb tenses. So think about, do you want to write this in the past, the present, or the future? And then you'll change all the verbs so that it makes sense according to that tense. So I'm going to say I did all of this in the past. So on my board, I would write I painted, because painted is the action. And then when I get to helps, I'm going to change that to helped. My teacher helped me with, and then framed, that's still in the past. And then for places, I would change that to placed. When I visited, and take out the will, that will finish up. So we want to make sure we're being consistent so that everything is happening in that same time frame. Then in your packet, you're going to go ahead and think about how it's identified here. Last weekend, Max finds an old diary in the attic and showed it to his mother. So how do we want to fix that? Well, we have finds and showed. We want to make sure we're being consistent. So how I would fix that would be last weekend, Max found an old diary in the attic and showed it to his mother. So the only word I have to change is finds to found. So on that line, I would write found, and then we would be golden and have consistent use of verb tenses. So just make sure that you're using the same time frame. So if it happened in the past, you're sticking to past tense, the future tense, and present tense. All right, so quick review. So we've talked about past tense, present tense, and future tense. And we've kind of just went over that again. And now on your whiteboard, we're going to have a couple more warm-ups. So whenever you have the whiteboard, you can always pause this to make sure that you have your information before I give the answer. Identify the verb in each sentence. Tell whether it is past, present, or future. Most people dislike unfair taxes, and most Americans will remember the colonists' protest with pride. So go ahead, write down those verbs and those tenses. For number 1, dislike is the tense, and this is ongoing. It's happening in the present and the future. Americans will remember the colonists' protest with pride. Remember, or will remember, is the tense, will remember, so it happens in the future. Right, your next two sentences, King George III agreed to new taxes for American colonists, and today's kings and queens expect obedience. What are the verbs and their tenses? Agreed is the verb, and that happened in the past. Expect, it's happening in the present. All right, your last sentence. England needed money after the French and Indian War. What's the verb and the tense? the verb is need and the tense is needed. So this section you have two different parts to do. So we're thinking about those past, present, and future tenses. Let me just move this up. The author blank Pluto as the setting of his next book. Well, when is this going to happen? It's going to happen in his next book, so it hasn't happened yet. So on this line, I would write the author will use Pluto as the setting of his next book. So making sure we're staying consistent with our tenses. All right, your final page. And I know I just said staying consistent. Make sure we're staying consistent with our tenses. You can see here that we have some shifted tenses. We went from visited to see to toured to will visit to have. We went between the past, the present, and the future tenses. And then in this next paragraph, we stayed all in the past. So let me read it inconsistently first for you. When my family visited Washington, D.C. last summer, we will see the Lincoln Memorial. We toured the Capitol, and we will visit the Washington Monument. We have a great time. That kind of seems confusing because I'm not for sure when they did it or if they even did it. Whereas if I read the consistent tense, I can quickly identify that they already went on this trip and they did all these things. When my family visited Washington, D.C. last summer, we saw the Lincoln Memorial. We toured the Capitol and visited the Washington Monument. We had a great time. So all of that shows me that they already did all of this. So we're going to apply all of that knowledge to our final page in our packet. And really, it's this one paragraph here. I want you to read all of these sentences. It's 5 sentences. The number in parentheses tells you the sentence. So first you're going to read, then answer the questions. So the movie begins when the boy's older brother joins the militia. The firing cannons are so loud, I miss what the brother tells his captain. The story gets exciting when the boys borrow a horse after he hurts his ankle. When I leave the theater, I wanted to learn how to ride a horse. I like the movie so much that I tell my friends to see it. So now I'm going to read the questions. What change, if any, should be made to sentence 4? So sentence 4, when I leave the theater, I wanted to learn how to ride a horse. So thinking about that consistent and inconsistent verb tenses, right? So think about what you want and then go ahead, read through A, B, C, and D. And then for 2, what change, if any, should I make to sentence 5? I liked the movie so much that I tell my friends to see it. What would you do to sentence 5 to make sure you're staying consistent in your verb tenses?